Hi students, my name is Sandhya Nair, computer science lecturer. Here I am going to explain the most expected questions in your CS board paper. If you study these questions, easily you can score 21 marks, that is the passing marks. So let's get started. Let's first see the blueprint of computer science question paper. Here you will have part A, part B, part C, part D and part E. In part A, you will have 15 MCQs and 5 fill in the blanks. If you see this 5 fill in the blanks, you can see all the 5 questions will be only from one chapter, that is database concepts. So if you study this database concepts chapter properly, you can easily score this 5 marks from fill in the blanks. Then coming to the theory part, from Boolean algebra, K-map problem is 100% sure question. That is 5 mark question. So you can score 5 mark easily from Boolean algebra. Then you have object-oriented concepts. In object-oriented programming concepts, you can see that 7 marks are there from this chapter. That is one 5 mark question and one 2 mark question. Then coming to inheritance, you can see 6 marks are there. This 6 mark, one for MCQ and another 5 mark is from part D. Then if you see this pointers, only 3 mark questions are there plus 1 MCQ. Then data file handling, 2 mark question is also there, 3 mark question is also there. Then coming to web designing, you can see 4 marks are there. That is 1 MCQ and 1 3 mark question. Let's see this in detail. So Boolean algebra, you can see K-map problem. If you are thorough with this K-map problem, you can score 5 mark. Then object-oriented concepts, you have 5 questions. The first one is characteristics of object-oriented programming, advantages of object-oriented programming, limitations of object-oriented programming, applications of object-oriented programming, and difference between POP and OOP. If you study these 5 questions, out of this 5 questions, you can expect one question that is of 5 mark. Then in this characteristics of OOP, you can expect a question which is of 2 mark. So total 7 mark you can score from this object oriented concepts chapter. Coming to inheritance, you have 3 questions, that is types of inheritance, advantages of inheritance and single inheritance with programming example. If you study these 3 questions, one question is 100% sure from this 3 questions, which carries 5 marks. Then coming to pointers, 3 marks are from this pointers chapter. Operations on pointers, advantages of pointers, array of pointers, dynamic memory allocation, difference between static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation, new operator and delete operator. So if you study these questions, one question you can expect, the chances are high. Coming to web designing, you have 3 mark. So the most expected questions from this web designing chapter is basic tags, text resizing tags, text formatting tags, general structure of HTML, web hosting and its types. You can expect any one question from this list of questions. Then coming to data file handling, 5 marks are there, that is one 2 mark question will come and one 3 mark question will come. So here little bit difference is there, that here I have given the topics. From these topics you can expect these 2 mark question as well as the 3 mark question. So what are the if stream functions, what are the off stream functions, what are the types of files, what are the modes of opening a file. If you are thorough with these concepts, you can score 2 plus 3 5 marks. Let's get into detail. The first question is on K-map. Here the K-map question is given. F of PQRS is equal to sigma 0, 2, 5, 7, 8, 10, 13, 15. This is the K-map question. And on the right side, it's given the table with 4 rows and 4 columns. And in each cell, we have a particular number. That number is 0, 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 7, 6, 12, 13, 15, 14, 8, 9, 11, 10. If you see this numbering, you can identify that 0, 1, then 2 is written here, then 3 is written here. Then 4, 5, 6 is written here, 7 is written here. Then leaving one row, in the next row, 8 is written, 9, 10 is written here, 11 is written here. Then we are filling the middle row, that is 12, 13, 14 here and 15. This is how the K-map cells we are doing numbering work. Then afterwards, if you see here, we have 4 variables P, Q, R, S. The first 2 variables we need to write here, second 2 variables we need to write here. And in the first cell, we will write 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. The same way, on top also we will write 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. Then one more thing we need to do here, that is, we need to write the variable. If 0, that corresponds a variable with bar. So here 0, 0 will become P bar, Q bar. 0, 1 will become P bar, Q. 1, 1 will become P, Q. 1, 0 will become P, Q bar. The same way on the top portion, here this will be R bar, S bar, R bar, S, R, S, R, S bar. Now we need to fill the numbers. Which numbers we need to fill? We need to fill zeros and ones in each cell. How we will fill these zeros and ones in each cell, that is what we are going to see next. If you see here in the question, the first number is given 0. So the 0, in the 0th cell, we need to fill 1. Then the second number given is 2. In the second cell, we need to write the number 1. Then the next one is 5. So in cell 5, we need to write the number 1. Then the next number is 7. In the cell 7, we need to fill the number 1. Next is 8. 8 is here. There we need to fill number 1. Then 10. In 10th cell, we need to fill 1. Then 13. In 13th cell, we need to write 1. Then 15. In 15th cell, we need to write number 1. Remaining all the cells, we should fill with 0. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 and 0. This is how we will write the K-map. This is all about the writing work. Now we need to solve this K-map. How can we solve this K-map? So, the first step in solving this K-map is grouping adjacent cells. Grouping adjacent cells on the basis of what? Grouping adjacent cells if the content of the cell is 1. And the order of grouping the adjacent cells goes in a particular manner, that is 8, 4, 2, 1. If 8 adjacent ones are there, then we can group that. If 4 adjacent ones are there, then we can group that. If 2 adjacent ones are there, then we can group that. Then later, if only one is there, then we need to group that. So it goes in that order: 8, 4, 2, 1. First we need to see for 8 adjacent ones. If it is not there, we need to see for 4 adjacent ones. If it is not there, we need to see for 2 adjacent ones. And if it is not there, then we go for 1 ones. If you see here, cell number 5, cell number 7, cell number 13 and cell number 15 ones are adjacent. All these cells carries 1. So we can group this with the help of a rectangle. Then comes 0, 2, 8 and 10. Since this is in the corner, if you are folding all the corners of a paper, it will be adjacent, right? The same way here, think of this K-map as a paper and we are folding all the 4 corners. So all the 4 corners, these ones will be adjacent together. That we can consider as a 4 adjacent ones. The name of these 4 adjacent ones will be quad. The name of these 4 adjacent ones, we call it as quad. If it is 8, then we call it as oct. Then if it is 8 adjacent ones, then we call it as oct. If 4 adjacent ones are there, then we call it as quad. If 2 adjacent ones are there, then we call it as pair. So usually in a K-map, we will have either 8 or 4 or 2. So here we have how many quads? 2 quads. Which are the 2 quads? Quad 1, quad 1, the cell numbers are 5, 7, 13 and 15. Is it clear? Now, if you take this one, we need to see the corresponding row number and column number. So here the row number is 0, 1 and column number is 0, 1. And the corresponding variables are P bar Q and R bar S. That P bar Q, R bar S we need to write here. Then the next we need to see the next one and the variables corresponding to this one. So the variables corresponding to this one is P bar Q and RS plus the next adjacent one is this one. The corresponding variables is PQ and R bar S plus the next one is this. The corresponding variables are PQ and RS. Now coming to this solution, P bar and this P bar we can strike together. Q this P bar and P bar we can strike. Q, if you see Q here, Q, 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 so we cannot do anything. And if you see here R bar, R, this R bar and R we can strike. this R bar and this R we can strike. Then comes S, 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 S. So we cannot do anything. And from this formula we will get QS here. This P bar and this P bar we can strike. And in the second term we will get QS. Third term we will get QS. Fourth term we will get QS. That means QS plus QS plus QS plus QS. The answer is QS. The same way, the second quad also you need to solve. Quad 2, the first one is 0, second one is 2, third one is 8, and fourth one is 10. So the variables that is corresponding to this one is P, Q bar and R bar, S bar, plus the variable corresponding to this one is P, Q bar, R, S bar, plus the variable corresponding to this one is P bar, Q bar and R bar, S bar, plus the variable corresponding to this one is P bar, Q bar, R, S bar. This P and this P bar we can strike. This P and this P we can strike. Q bar, Q bar, Q bar, Q bar we cannot strike. This R bar and this R we can strike. This R bar and this R we can strike. S bar, S bar, S bar, S bar we cannot do anything. So here Q bar, S bar is the answer. Q bar, S bar. The final answer we can write as QS plus Q bar, S bar. This is the final answer. So this should be there when you are writing your answer. This should be the final answer should be there. This carries 1 mark. If you are not writing this, then you will lose 1 mark. Hope this is clear. This is how you will solve the K-map. Coming to object-oriented concepts, we have characteristics of object-oriented programming. The characteristics of object-oriented programming usually asks us 2-mark question. What is an object? An object is a collection of data members and associated member functions. An object is a collection of data members and associated member functions. This is one definition. Either you can write this or you can write an object is an entity of a class. So those who are feeling difficulty to understand the first definition, you can go ahead with the second definition. Next one is classes. A class is a way of grouping objects with similar characteristics. A class is a way of grouping objects with similar characteristics. This is one definition, or you can write a class is a blueprint of object. Then comes data abstraction. Abstraction refers to the process of representing essential features without including background details. We don't want to know the background details for running a program, that is known as data abstraction. Then comes data encapsulation. Encapsulation. Remember the capsule? In that capsule we are encapsulating something. Here what we are encapsulating? Data and functions. We are encapsulating the data and functions into a single unit. And the name of the unit is class. This is one definition. Otherwise you can write the wrapping up of data and functions into a single unit is called encapsulation. Then we have inheritance. The process of forming a new class from an existing class is known as inheritance. We have already a class. From that class we are creating another class. That is known as inheritance. This is one definition. Or you can write inheritance is the capability of one class to inherit properties from another class. One class we are creating from already existing class, that is known as inheritance. Then comes polymorphism. Polymorphism is where function take multiple forms based on the type of arguments, number of arguments and data type of return value. Where polymorphism is a characteristic of object-oriented programming in which a single function will take multiple forms and the number of arguments or the type of arguments or the data type of return value will be different. It has to be different. Then comes dynamic binding. Dynamic binding means code associated with a procedure call is known only at the time of execution. So basically the word dynamic means at the time of execution. Here the binding of the procedure or binding of the function will happen only at the time of execution. That is known as dynamic binding. Then comes message passing. Processing is done by sending messages to objects. That means objects are communicating each other by passing messages. This is known as what? Message passing. So you know that we have learned objects, classes, data abstraction, data encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, dynamic binding and message passing. From these characteristics, the probability of the question is high, that is 2-mark question. So any two concepts will be asked in the form of a 2-mark question. Then the next one is advantages of object-oriented programming. What are the advantages of object-oriented programming? Five advantages are there. 5 advantages of object-oriented programming are there. The programs are modularized based on the principle of classes and objects. Linking code and object reduces code duplication and code reusability. Data encapsulation provides data security. Easier to develop complex software. Data abstraction separate object specification and object implementation. So these are the advantages of object-oriented programming. Then comes limitations of object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is not having a set of standards. Adaptability of flow diagram in object-oriented programming uses classes and objects is a complex process. To convert a real-world problem into object-oriented model is difficult. The classes are overly generalized. Then comes applications of object-oriented programming. So chances are there for you to get a 2-mark question, that is applications of object-oriented programming. So any 2 applications of this object-oriented programming you can write in that case. Let's see what are the applications of object-oriented programming. Computer graphic applications, CAD or CAM software, object-oriented database, user interface design, real-time systems, simulation and modeling, artificial intelligence and expert systems. These are the applications of OOP. Any 2 you can write in case of 2-mark question, or any 5 you can write in case of 5-mark question. Then comes the difference between procedural oriented programming and object oriented programming. Here POP is procedure oriented programming and OOP is object oriented programming. In procedure oriented programming, that is POP, program is divided into smaller parts called functions. But in object oriented programming, program is divided into smaller parts and it is called objects. Importance is given to functions as well as sequence of actions to be done. In object oriented programming, the importance is given to data rather than the procedure. Procedure oriented programming follows top down approach. Object oriented programming follows bottom up approach. Procedure oriented programming does not have any access specifiers. Object oriented programming has access specifiers, namely public, private and protected. Procedure oriented programming is less secure. Object oriented programming is more secure since data hiding facility is there. In procedure oriented programming, overloading is not possible. Object oriented programming, overloading is possible. So these are the 5 different questions from this object oriented programming concepts you can expect, and the chances of getting these questions as a 5-mark question and a 2-mark question is high. So don't skip these questions. It will help you to score good marks. Next chapter is inheritance. In inheritance, we have the first question, that is advantages of inheritance. We can reuse the existing code. We can reduce the development time. We can easily maintain the code, easily extend the code, and memory can be utilized effectively. These are the 5 advantages of inheritance. Now, the next question is explain briefly the types of inheritance. We have 5 different types of inheritance. The first one is single inheritance. You just understand the diagram here given here so that it will be easy for you to frame a sentence by seeing this figure. You have a base class, one base class and one derived class in single inheritance. So how can we frame a sentence from this figure? A single class is derived from a base class, that is single inheritance. Example, father and son. Son will acquire some properties of father in single inheritance. Then next one is multi-level inheritance. In multi-level inheritance, we have different levels of inheritance. Multi-level inheritance, we have different levels of inheritance. So this is the first level, this is the second level. How can we frame a sentence from this figure? A class is derived from a class which is already derived from another class. A class is derived from a class which is already derived from another class. For example, son will acquire the properties from father and father will acquire the properties from grandfather. We have the third one, that is multiple inheritance. In multiple inheritance, we have multiple base classes. Here in this figure you can see base class 1 and base class 2, and one class, that is derived class, is acquiring the properties from base class 1 and base class 2. So how can we frame a sentence for this? A single class acquiring properties from 2 or more base classes. That is multiple inheritance, multiple base classes. Prince is acquiring properties from king and queen. Then we have hierarchical inheritance. In hierarchical inheritance, multiple classes are derived from a single base class. So keep this difference in your mind. In multiple inheritance, we have multiple base classes. In hierarchical inheritance, we have multiple derived classes. Hope this difference is clear for you. If you take lectures, office staff, group D or any other employees, all the employees are considered as staff. Then we have hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance is a combination of any two other inheritance. Any other two inheritance, that is a combination of any other two inheritance. Here if you see, here this is a single class, multiple derived classes. This is the first part is hierarchical inheritance. And if you see mammal and herbivorous, this part is multiple inheritance. So any combination of or a combination of any other two inheritance is known as hybrid inheritance. Then comes single inheritance with programming example. What is the definition of single inheritance? We have already seen, and here we have the programming example for single inheritance. Here we have a class, that is base. Class, what is the class name? Base is the class name. How many data members we have? We have 3 different data members: roll number, name, 2 different data members, then 2 different functions, that is one is read, another one is display. Read is a function to read the roll number and name. Display is a function to display the roll number and name. This is the content of the class base. Then we have the second class, that is derived class. Here we need to implement single inheritance, and the operator to implement single inheritance is a colon. So here class derive, which is inheriting from which class? Base class. Here we have how many data members? 3 data members, that is M1, M2 and T. And how many member functions? Two member functions, read one and display one. Read one is a function to read the marks of two subjects and to calculate the total. Display one is a function to display the first mark, second mark and the total mark. Now finally what we need? We need a main function to create the object and to call all the functions. So here which class? We have two classes. Out of which class object we will be creating here? We will be creating the object of the second class, that is the derived class. Derive OB, here we are creating the object of the derived class. Then using that object we are calling all the four functions, that is ob.read, ob.read1, ob.display, ob.display1. Finally we need to write getch. So this is the end of the single inheritance chapter. 3 questions are there of 5 marks. If you are studying these 3 questions, one question you can expect 100% sure. Coming to pointers. Pointers we have the first question, that is operations on pointers. In operations on pointers we have add an integer value to a pointer, subtract an integer value from a pointer, compare two pointers if they point to the elements of the same array. So this is a 3-mark question. Second question is advantages of pointers. Memory utilization, dynamically allocate and deallocate the memory, easy to deal with hardware components. These 3 points are coming under advantages of pointers. Then comes array of pointers. An array of pointers is a collection of addresses. Here is an example. We are creating an array of pointers of size 5 and which is of integer data type. And we are giving the value of I as 10, j as 20, k as 30, l as 40, m as 50. IPTR of 0 is equal to ampersand I, IPTR of 1 is equal to ampersand j, IPTR of 2 is equal to ampersand k, IPTR of 3 is equal to ampersand l, IPTR of 4 is equal to ampersand m. And now we need to see the values of this array of pointers. So star IPTR of 0 is equal to 10, star IPTR of 1 is equal to 20, star IPTR of 2 is equal to 30, star IPTR of 3 is equal to 40, star IPTR of 4 is equal to 50. Even you can rewrite it without any complexity as int star IPTR of 3. Then what are the changes you need to make here? You need to write here only from int I is equal to 10, j is equal to 20, k is equal to 30, put a semicolon. Then IPTR of 0 is equal to ampersand I, IPTR of 1 is equal to ampersand j, IPTR of 2 is equal to ampersand k, star IPTR of 0 is equal to 10, star IPTR of 1 is equal to 20, star IPTR of 2 is equal to 30. These two you can skip. Hope this is clear. Then the next question in pointers chapter is dynamic memory allocation. In dynamic memory allocation, the amount of memory to be allocated is not known. We cannot predict how much memory we need in case of dynamic memory allocation. This memory is allocated during runtime. Whenever we are running the program, that time only the memory will be allocated. C++ supports dynamic allocation of objects using the new operator. So how can we implement this concept of dynamic memory allocation? Using the new operator. This is the 3 points that comes under dynamic memory allocation. The next one is difference between static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation. In static memory allocation, the amount of memory to be allocated is known. We know in advance. In dynamic memory allocation, the memory to be allocated is not known. In static memory allocation, memory is allocated during compilation. In dynamic memory allocation, memory is allocated during runtime. In static memory allocation, the memory is implemented using stacks and heaps. In dynamic memory allocation, the memory is implemented using data segments. Then another question from pointers chapter is what is new operator and what is delete operator in pointers. New operator is used to allocate a memory dynamically. We can go through the points. We can allocate the memory for a variable while running a program by using new operator. Memory that is dynamically allocated using new operator can be fed using delete operator. So new operator is to allocate memory dynamically. Delete operator is to deallocate the memory which is allocated using new operator. The new operator calling a function new and the delete operator calling a function delete. Right? So these are the questions, most expected questions from pointers chapter. Only 3 mark question will be there from pointers chapter and you can expect any one among them. Then comes web designing. In web designing, the first question is basic tags. Basic tags means what is the basic structure of HTML, that is what is the question. So the first one is HTML. HTML makes the beginning of the HTML document. Then head begins the heading section of the HTML. Then body defines the body of the HTML document. So basically in this chapter we have 3 different important tags. One is basic tags, another one is text resizing tags, another one is text formatting tags. You need to understand the difference between these 3 tags. Second one is text resizing tag. In text resizing tag, how can we decrease or increase the size of the text? That is what do you mean by text resizing tags. We are actually changing the size of the text. The first one is big, it increases the size of the text. Then small, it decreases the size of the text. Then H1, it writes the text in biggest heading. The third set of tags are text formatting tags. Here we are formatting the tag in different manner. The first tag is B, it writes the text in bold. Then I, it writes the text in italics. Then subscript, it makes the text as a subscript. Then another important question from this chapter is general structure of HTML. An HTML document has a definite structure. The HTML's beginning and end must be defined. The use and order of tags that define HTML structure are described below. So basically this is the structure of HTML. First we need to write HTML, then we need to open head tag, then we need to open title tag, then close title tag, close head tag, open body tag, close body tag, close HTML tag. Whenever we are writing a tag, we should make sure that when we are drawing a line from the opening tag to closing tag, it should not overlap. That is the only one thing we need to be careful when we are writing the tags. Now the last question from web designing chapter is web hosting and types. Web hosting is a means of hosting web server application on a computer system through which electronic content on the internet is readily available to any web browser client. So what is a web hosting? Web hosting means we are putting an application on a computer system and that application is accessed by various clients. That process is known as web hosting. There are 2 main types of web hosting, free hosting and virtual hosting. So these are the questions from web designing chapter to be studied. Then data file handling. In data file handling we are going to see some topics. That is if stream. It is a stream class to read from file. You need to understand that if means it is for input. Input means reading. Input means reading. Then off means it is for output. Output means writing. So if stream class is a class to read from files Offstream class is a stream class to write on files. And we have different functions in ifstream class. The first function is get. Get is to read a single character. GetLine. GetLine is to read a whole line of text. Read. Read is used to read binary data from file. Then offstream functions we have. In offstream class we have only two functions, that is put and write. Put is to write a single character to the associated stream. Write is to write a binary data to a file. Now let us understand what is this text file and binary file. Text file, it stores the data in the form of ASCII characters. Binary data, it stores the binary file, it stores the information in the form of zeros and ones. So hope you are clear with this. Text file, the information is stored in the form of ASCII characters. Binary file, the information is stored in the form of zeros and ones. Then we have modes of opening a file. We have three different modes of opening a file. iOS double semicolon in, then iOS double colon out, iOS double colon binary. iOS double colon in, it is to open a file only for reading. iOS double colon out, it is for opening a file only for writing. And iOS double colon binary, it is for opening a binary file. So these are the important topics in data file handling. You will get total 5 marks from this chapter if you are understanding these concepts. So all together you can easily pass CS subject. And that is the end of this session. Thank you so much.